Joining us on the line now is Councillor Jon Tolley. Jon, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thanks.
Are you a fan of Genesis?
Any music that rocks anyone's boat is good for me.
And we got you on to talk about, of course, as you were named Councillor Jon Tolley in the Surrey Comet. First things first.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you saw that? Was it me who pointed it out, or had you seen it before?
Well, I've been after many years of being bullied as shopping trolley at school. I was ready to deal with being called Jon Tolley. It's happened before. It'll happen again.
Fair enough. And the actual content of the article, I'm not sure if we could. I'm going to avoid saying the word on air, but it rhymes with scallops and begins with B.
Yeah.
And it's that word to Brexit, and it's Charlie Mullins, isn't it, from Pimlico Plumbers, who's kind of headed this campaign for. There's a massive sign. If you get the bus to London Waterloo, of course you can see this massive sign. They were up around Kingston.
Yeah.
It was fairly near your shop, wasn't it?
That's right. I mean, I saw it on the way back from Sainsbury's, and I took a photo of it. But yeah, it's two doors down from where I'm currently sat at the moment, and it is quite prominent, definitely.
So, do you see an immediate problem with it?
Well, I mean, it's not the word that I would have used, and it's not an advertising campaign that I would have created or put my money behind. But I don't think it's the biggest problem in the world. I think if you're going to be offended by that word, then you should definitely be offended by Boris Johnson's comments on what he would do to business, or on Nigel Farage's standing in front of a poster of immigrants, and those kind of things are offensive. But the actual word and the actual advert doesn't really offend me, and we've seen that certain legal cases have said that actually it isn't a swear word. So we just got to move on, really.
Do you think there's a kind of forced hysteria surrounding it?
Yeah, I think people who are maybe pro-Brexit are trying to create more of a thing of it than it actually needs to be. But, you know, I welcome that it's there, because if it's getting people talking about it, getting people talking about this right now, and about what I think the real damage of Brexit is. The real damage of Brexit isn't about a swear word. It's about a lot more than that.
Now, of course, the Kingston Lib Dems, I've noticed on the Twitter feed, have been out and about in Kingston doing these, I don't quite know how you describe it, but you essentially put a sticker on your thoughts on Brexit, don't you?
Yeah, they call it a Brexitometer, which is a way of seeing what the public opinion is on various issues to do with Brexit, about whether or not people think it's going well, and whether or not you would support a final vote on the deal.
Now, Jon, as it's a Lib Dem policy, and I know I've seen you've tweeted about it a few times, I imagine you do support the final say on the vote. So, I mean, you were on the People's Vote March, weren't you? Which was that a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did go. I managed to get my multi-use placard of a skateboard onto the TV as well. So yeah, I did go, and I think that the People's Vote March is one of the absolute. It is a real joy and experience to see that is democracy. That is the biggest protest against anything since the Iraq War, and it's the biggest protest march that there's been for decades that Jeremy Corbyn wasn't at.
Jon, do you think, do you get rather why there seems to be people, Brexiteers on the other side, who view the march as being not only insignificant, but kind of almost unjust, as in there's kind of ulterior motives rather than having a vote? You essentially just want to reverse Brexit. What would you say to these people?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I think we've got to get rid of the idea of Remainers and Brexiteers. I think it's just looking at people, and people who maybe change their mind. But I don't think there's any problem with the fact that we as a country voted to leave the EU. I mean, that was a vote which happened, and so we need to respect that. But what also needs to be respected is where we're going to go. And so if we don't know what the deal is, we don't know yet, and there's so many more ramifications. We're talking about stockpiling medicine and food. I don't know how my business is going to run in 5 months' time. We've seen Yvette Cooper on the news just today talking about the ramifications on border security. I think when we know the deal, we should offer that back to the UK population to see if that's good enough for us. And if it's decided that isn't good enough for us, and maybe we shouldn't take a reduction in growth, and maybe we should look after businesses and the environment and EU nationals' rights, if that's the case, then we should have the option to remain. But we absolutely respect that there was a vote to leave, so let's see where we're going to go. And if it turns out that the UK no longer wants to go there, then we can stay as well.
Now, John, I appreciate this perhaps isn't a popular question, but what would you do if that vote was to accept a deal and to leave?
Then we'd have to take it. I mean, but I'm all for it. I'm all for people making an informed decision, and that's what it needs to be. So we previously we voted on an abstract concept of should we do this thing, which sounds quite good, but now we're going to vote on actual facts and figures. And if people then decide that that's the best thing to do for the country, then so be it. But I think that it is only democratic to have a vote based on facts and figures to see where the country goes for the next generation.
Now, John, whilst it's a fair kind of while away, there's a lot of talk on the Lib Dem camp about the 2020 Mayor of London and London Assembly elections. I think it's the ballots have been distributed today to vote for your candidate. I mean, do you think the kind of exit from Brexit, people's vote, will resonate with Londoners in that election? And what do you think, regardless of who the candidates are for the GLA and for the Mayor, what do you think are kind of realistic ambitions for the Lib Dems in those London elections?
I mean, it's a really hard question because obviously you're in a bubble here, and it's very hard to get out of your confirmation bias and your group of friends who all might think the same way. But I don't think that the conversation about Brexit should solely be a Lib Dem issue. I think we need people from all parties and none, people, Labour supporters, Conservative supporters, Green Party members, people who've never signed up to a political party to actually, this is bigger than party politics. And so the actual strategy of offering a people's vote is huger than that. But having said that, Lib Dems are obviously hugely supportive of the option of a people's vote and with the option to remain. I think that will resonate in London. I think that people are quite upset with the way that the Conservatives are taking the country, particularly with Brexit. And I think that people are frustrated with Labour's all things for all people's position. So hopefully it will be a message, and it will be, for some it will be a protest vote, for others it will be the idea that sensible middle ground liberal concepts are a good way to govern the country.
John, feel free not to answer this, but will you be throwing your support behind any Lib Dem mayoral candidate?
I'm still undecided at the moment, but I think it's a good problem to have because I think there's a lot of good in all of them. But obviously, I'm keen to support whoever will get the most votes out, and I'll cast my vote later tonight.
Fantastic. And John, just lastly, while we have you, obviously, the Kingston Council, you've been, this is your first time since you were elected in that by-election where you've been part of the governing party, essentially, in Kingston. How have you found that, personally?
Well, it's a lot more than I thought it would be. You know what? It's quite fun as an opposition because you get to just moan and criticise and pull out all everyone else's mistakes. But the actual work and the time and the brain power to put into actually running things and trying to change things with a really hard economic position that we've inherited, it's really full on. We're managing, but it's a lot of work. And I think it's been quite frustrating, actually, that we haven't seen the fruits of what we've done yet. But I'm absolutely confident this will start coming through in the next few months. From small scale things like having the water fountain in the town centre, which is something I've personally been talking about for years, if it's not months, to bigger, more borough-wide issues. The ballot on the Cambridge estate is something new, it's something radical, it's something that hasn't really been done on this scale across London, and there's some really good things coming through. But yeah, it certainly is a lot of work. I'm not skateboarding as much as I want to.
And John, just on that actually, because I spoke to Sam Forder-Hughes a few weeks ago about the Lib Dem announcement on mental health champions to be on each of the 5 strategic committees. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things where it's a fantastic policy, and I think you'd be hard pushed to find anyone who disagrees with it. I mean, what were your thoughts when you heard about that? Because obviously, it was slightly different to the manifesto pledge, wasn't it?
Well, I think that this is just one step. It's a statement of intent. It's a statement of intent of how important it is to give mental health equal parity with other physical health conditions. And it's not just, this isn't the end. It's not just, oh, we've done that, so everything's okay. The idea is to incorporate a view of mental health conditions and the effects that certain decisions will have into everything we do. So yeah, don't view this as the solution to anything, because it's not, but it's a statement of intent about how important we and others, like you say, it's not just, this isn't a Lib Dem thing, it's a 2018 thing, and it's something that we need to deal with and treat seriously. So yeah, it's the beginning, not the end.
And John, on this show, we generally try and promote local events that are happening in Kingston. Of course, you at Banquet Records have some fantastic events. Do you want to tease us with who's been announced?
Well, okay, so back to the day job. So tomorrow night we have Razor Light playing in Kingston. Their first time I think they've ever played in Kingston, certainly the first time they play for us. We have a huge gig on November 29th, which I can't yet announce, but that's probably the biggest thing we'll do all year.
Oh, fantastic.
And next week, this is an exclusive for you, never been announced anywhere, but it looks like Tiffany is playing at Banquet Records.
Oh, fab! And that's a Kingston Green Radio exclusive, is it?
Absolutely, you've got the worldwide scoop on that. So I just got the email before I picked up the phone to you. So Tiffany will not be alone now in Kingston, because you can come and see her too.
Fantastic. And John, where can people follow your work on? You're on Twitter and Facebook, aren't you?
I personally am on Jon Tolley tweets, and Banquet Records is at Banquet Records on all social media.
Brilliant. Well, Jon Tolley, thank you very much for joining us on the line.
Absolute pleasure.